call this regular board meeting of the Madison Elementary School District to order. Ms. Humphries, please call the roll.
President Gresham.
Here.
President Thompson.
Present.
Member Holcomb.
Here.
Member Kazi.
Here.
Member Spear.
Here.
All are present.
Thank you. Do I have, well, first, do we have anybody need to make any changes to the agenda, or do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Holcomb. Please vote. Okay, now we have adopted the agenda. And we'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you all had a good fall break. Let's see, do we have any calls for executive session? Seeing none. All right, I will move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Yan.
President Gresham, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, it's hard to believe that the first quarter has come to a close. I hope everyone had a restful fall break, even if it wasn't a cool fall break. Maybe it was restful. I'm very excited to announce Discover Madison is coming up. Discover Madison provides prospective parents an opportunity to tour our amazing school by school bus. So our first one is Discover Kindergarten on November 15th from 8:30 to 12. It will be for families interested in learning more about the kindergarten programs at Madison Camelview, Madison Simus, Roselane Heights, and Madison Traditional Academy. And for the first time, we will have Madison Discover Middle School on November 22nd from 8:30 to 12. It's for families interested in learning about our middle school programs at Madison number 1, Meadows, Madison Park, and Madison Traditional Academy. The tour is geared towards new families with students entering 5th grade next fall who are interested in learning more about the opportunities and programs at the Madison School District. Spots will fill up fast, so please visit the website to sign up. Attendees will board the school bus and visit each of the Madison schools to receive a guided tour by the principal and learn more about the school and the signature program. The tour includes a luncheon at the Madison Center for the Arts and will conclude at noon. I'm also very excited that tomorrow is our Interfaith Brunch at 10 a.m. in the lobby for the Center for the Arts. The Interfaith is made up of faith-based organizations with Madison that would come together to share information and ways to support each other. And then parent-teacher conferences are fast approaching. October 23rd through the 25th, your school will provide details on how to sign up for your parent conferences. That is all I have today.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have any board member reports? I'll start with Mr. Holcomb.
Thank you. I got the opportunity to go to the first of the Phoenix Symphony community concerts on Saturday. And it was lightly attended. They realized that there were two mistakes. One is that they planned it during everyone's fall break. And the second is they had a bit of a issue with tickets. It made it difficult to find individual tickets versus the season ticket for that, but I think they've got that fixed. But it was a phenomenal trip through the Americas, and the people who were there it was just phenomenal. There are 3 more of those throughout the year, so that's a great partnership for the Madison. Also, note on this weekend, on Saturday, is the Arizona Teacher of the Year ceremony, which is a great celebration, not just of one teacher, but of all teachers and all those who are up for that award and those who were in the competition. It's a great event and it's a great celebration, and we're honored to have it at the Madison. That's all I have. Oh, excuse me, and one thing, I will not be able to make the interfaith breakfast because I have to be up in Flagstaff. But please, give my thanks to all the organizations because they are a huge support for us. And I know at my own church and at the other churches, they're really looking for tutors. They have the tutoring program and that too. So reach out. Please do remind them of the opportunities to serve, including particularly that one. It's a very impactful thing that a number of the churches are involved in.
Is that the Oasis tutoring you're referring
There's
to?
Oasis, actually for mine, it's from First United Methodist Church. We call them the the Methodist Mentors, or the M&Ms, so.
Thank you, sir. Vice President Thompson, would you like to go next?
Sure. Want to welcome everybody back from fall break. Also want to recognize that it's National School Lunch Week, so want to thank everyone in Madison who helps provide meals, not just lunch, but breakfast also for our students across the district. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Cussy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few items. On Friday, the ESBA is hosting a bylaw seminar, which will be really exciting. And if you have any questions about the bylaws, I will be on the seminar. Happy to answer them there, or you certainly can email me, text me, and I would be happy to provide some clarity. So just heads up on that. And then also the Madison Education Foundation on Saturday, the 28th of September, held a Mission, Vision, Values meeting, and I wanted to apprise the board that the Madison Education Foundation is looking, they haven't made any final decisions, but looking at expanding the mission of the foundation to expand a little bit beyond our arts focus so that we're a little bit more nimble in serving all of our schools in our community. Obviously, the arts would continue, I'm sure, to be an important priority given the Madison Center for the Arts and how, we have signature programs targeted on the arts. But I just wanted to let you guys know that. If you have any feedback you'd like to share, nothing's been finalized yet, but that is something that is certainly underway. I think they're just looking to literally serve every school and also look at, towards the future, and eye towards the future as well. And then finally, I just wanted to share, I just love how supportive Madison voters are of our district. Even though we're not on the ballot, I keep getting questions about where to find our questions on the ballot. And so it's lovely to be able to say, there's nothing on the ballot for Madison this year, because it's just so easy. And I wanted to share that because it just really, people are very committed to our district. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Spear.
Thank you. In fact, Ms. Kasi, I'm going to follow up on that. I have also been asked questions about who to vote for Madison School District, and I was pleasantly able to say, actually, we are not on the ballot. There is a wonderful candidate that has already been appointed. And to that end, I want to remind our voters that ballots are probably in their mailbox if they don't already know that, and that elections matter all the way down the ballot. There are a number of state legislators and politicians in the state of Arizona that got their start in governing boards. Phil Gordon was mayor of Phoenix. Matt Gress is a state legislator. Kate Brophy-McGee started on the Washington School District. TJ Shope, I'm not sure what district he's from, but I know he's in the state. Florence. And then potentially Karen Gresham. And so elections really do matter, and I want to make sure that our voters understand that as they're filling out their ballots over the next couple of weeks, which most Arizona voters do, mail-in ballots, that they educate themselves on all of the elections all the way down the ballot. And one other thing to piggyback on Ms. Thompson's comments, I pleasantly discovered that I had $41 in my son's lunch account here in Madison. He has not been a Madison student for 3 years. So what I can do is actually donate that money to Madison District, and I can't transfer it out because he's in a different school district, and Link doesn't let you do that. But what a pleasant surprise to be able to make that donation, and thank you to Madison District administrators for helping make that happen, because I couldn't figure out how to do it on the website. So thank you, and that's all I have.
Thank you so much for all that information. Yeah, many propositions on the ballot as well. So yeah, well, it's a long one, but very important. I'm excited for the tours coming up. I will once again be a tour guide, so that's always one of the most fun things that we get to do. And yeah, I guess this is the time of year for the fall festivals as well, so those will be coming up. So I'm hoping to get to some of those. Also very, very fun. And I think the last thing is I will also be at the Teacher of the Year ceremony this weekend. And we did have a teacher finalist from Madison. And I'll do my own personal shout out. My cousin is a top 5 finalist from Washington Elementary. So that's so exciting. Yeah, so that will be fun. Okay, that's all I have as well. Thank you. And we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do I have any changes or an motion to adopt the consent?
So moved.
Second.
We tribute you to it. So, motion moved by Ms. Spear, seconded by Ms. Kazi. Please vote. And that passes unanimously. And we'll move on. Do we have any calls to the public, Ms. Humphries?
We have no calls to public today.
Thank you so much. Okay, and we have some first read policies. Dr. Guerin, will you introduce this, please?
President Gresham, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, 'tis the season to start our policy work. So we're going to have a new batch of policies. And President Gresham, if it's agreeable to you, I can go over my policy, hand it over to Dr. Lomeli, who'll hand it over to Ms. Garvey, and then we can take questions after, since it's a
course.
first read.
Sounds
Okay,
great.
wonderful.
Thank you.
So the first policy, 6.1, BBBA, board member qualifications, just adds some language that board members cannot be a registered sex offender in the state of Arizona. So, of course, we are recommending that change. So that is my policy, and then I will hand it over to Dr. Lomeli.
Thank you, Dr. Guerin. Madam President, members of the board, cabinet. The first policy that we're bringing forward for some revision is policy GBK, staff grievances. And this policy basically adds some language that is part of the new guidance, Title IX guidance. So we're just updating that policy to add some language. The next two policies are policy GCF, professional staff hiring, and GDF, support staff hiring. And those two policies are being revised to add the requirement that candidates for employment in a school district must report or disclose that they have pled guilty, pled no contest, or have been convicted or are awaiting trial or pursuit of a whole list of crimes that are basically crimes against children. And that's the same language is added to both those policies. And I'd like to turn over to Lori Garvey.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. The first policy that I have is JFB, open enrollment. And this is really just a very minor change to align it to legislation which says that we can give preferential treatment to a child of somebody who is in the active military or has been killed in the line of duty, or somebody who is serving right now, is serving now. So that's the only change to that, that policy. The next policy is policy JDH, which is exclusions and exemptions from school attendance. That's longer than the change, which changes one word. A student needs, or a child has to have their chronic illness certified. And in the past, it was by a certified health professional. Now it's changed it from certified to a licensed health professional. And that's the only change in that policy.
So, yes, that is our recommendations, and we'll bring it back for action at our next board meeting.
Does anybody have any questions or discussions on the first read? Okay, thank you so much. Oh, Ms. Spear, sorry.
With regards to policy BBBA, board member qualifications, is that an addition? Is that an additional qualification, or was that not in there before? Is that new?
It was not explicitly in there before.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And as Dr. Guerin mentioned, this is a first read, so we are not taking action until the second read. So thank you. Anybody else have anything? Okay. All right, we'll move on to 7.1, technology update. Dr. Guerin?
President Gresham, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, I'd like to turn it over to Deputy Superintendent Lori Garvey to introduce this item.
Thank you, Dr. Guerin. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Guerin and Cabinet. Tonight, Mr. Justin Wright, our Director for Information Systems Services, is here to give us an update on technology throughout the district.
Hello, thank you.
Madam President, members of the board. Madam President, members of the board, cabinet. Thank you for having me out to discuss technology. There's a lot of technology, as you might imagine, throughout the district. This presentation is not going to cover everything. We would be here for quite a while. What I chose to go over were some high-level points, some recent projects we've done, some things going on in the district that are interesting I wanted to point out, and of course take any questions you might have. So when I started in Madison 17 years ago, we just had received smartboards. And it was cutting-edge technology to be able to interact with something on the wall. We had a projector in the ceiling, we had smartboards, we pick up the pen, and it magically draws whatever color you want, and then it disappears. And those were great, but time passes, technology naturally advances, and even just the actual material of the technology we have starts to wear over time. So what we've been doing in recent years is replacing with flat panel interactive TVs. What's nice about that is not only is it cutting edge technology compared to the smart boards, but it's taking two devices, a projector and a smart board, which are essentially two potential points for failure, which causes a lesson to have to go sideways potentially. So what we've done is now taken both of those out and replaced it with a single device on the wall. You still have the interactivity, you still have the electronic pens, you still have the ability to project what's on the teacher's screen, but what's also nice about this is, unlike the smartboards, it's essentially a glorified tablet. It has its own operating system if desired. So you can obviously plug in your Windows laptop, but you can also operate it with nothing plugged in and be able to run some apps and things like that. Sticking with the classroom, we recently added even more Chromebooks. Now, I'm bringing you Chromebooks and you're thinking, I thought we were going to get some new information. We didn't used to have Chromebooks. We used to have 6 desktops in the back of the classroom, and slowly we've been adding mobile devices. But because budget is what it was at the time, we were very excited to say we're 5 to 1. We have a device for every 5 students. Isn't that great? And then more budget came along. We were able to reduce that number to 4 to 1 and 3 to 1, et cetera. We even got down to 1 to 1, which was something we were very excited about. But 1 to 1 means 1 device per 1 student in the school and across the district. But what that doesn't mean is that every single classroom has their own cart, just based on the numbers of enrollment. Now we could say, okay, who's next door at number 1? We have a classroom of 27 students. Let's roll out a cart of 27 devices. But then tomorrow, the 28th student enrolls, and IT's got to run over and put that 28th device in. Great, we can go do tickets. What's that? 2 more people enrolled? Okay, let's run over again. We didn't want to play that game. So what we did was roll out carts that were fully stocked to the potential capacity of the classroom. That means additional devices are sitting there that maybe throw off the ratio. The nice thing is, should a device go down, you've got a spare right there if you're not fully enrolled in a particular class. But what we have now is the ability for every single teacher to say they have a cart in their classroom with extra devices. And that also gives us the ability to go through our state assessments and our in-house assessments with more efficiency, take less time out of the classroom. So it's a win-win all around. You'll also find displays throughout the schools showing rotating slideshows of different information that they might want to have on display for the families, maybe the parents coming in. You'll find them in lobbies and offices, cafeterias, libraries. The nice thing about it is, what it used to be is you'd be on a computer and you'd have to create a slideshow and you'd save it to a USB and you'd walk over and have to get on a ladder and plug it in. This is all web connected. So anyone at any time who's got access can go ahead and make an edit remotely. And it can be, you can have different collaborators involved. Maybe the art teacher has something specific that only they have information about. The principal has a message they want to add. So we've got these on display. These are powered by Chrome boxes, which is essentially just a Chrome book in a different form factor designed for these types of rotating slideshows. And as we are building new schools, we're putting in bigger ones, which is nice. The technology is cheaper as it gets larger, which is a good thing. But you should be able to see those across the campuses and including in the district office lobby. This is something new that we've added this summer. It's being piloted currently at Park. So we heard from Park reached out and said, hey, Mrs. Gossett said, can we get some software for hall monitoring? Here are some programs I've looked up online. And so we looked at it and we said, this is interesting, but not free. And we had further conversations. What is it you're really wanting to know? Well, we're wanting to know who's leaving, what time, when they're coming back. We want to be able to track high flyers. Are they just leaving in first period, or is it second period and third period and fourth period? So what we looked at internally was, can we build something? Can we put something together? So what you see here in this photo is a scanner. The student will just walk up. Once they have permission, obviously, scan their badge, grab the bathroom pass in that particular class, and it'll instantly log their ID card badge in the system and log the time that they've left, and they scan when they come back. And staff has access to that log to see any information they might need. Maybe there's some damage done to a bathroom or in a hallway or something, we can see who left at what time, that sort of thing. Currently being piloted at a Park. It was requested at MTA as well, and a couple of classrooms in the grade level. We're going to branch out. It's in beta testing, which just working out any bugs. We don't want to go wide and have to run around and fix everything where everybody's relying on it. So Park was gracious enough to jump up and say, yeah, we'll give it a shot. And our goal is to offer it to any other schools across the district that have an interest. And the last thing I wanted to touch on is kind of a third rail. It's no fun for anyone, but it's cybersecurity. There are threats everywhere, and amazingly, if you were to look at the actual income that a public school would have, you'd think that they'd be the last one to be targeted. But it's because we're so focused on the students that we're not thinking we're going to be targeted, and we're all in it for the right reasons, but people are trying to take advantage of that. And you can do as much as you possibly can physically. You can set up all sorts of antivirus, you can set up all sorts of protections. But if you have staff that don't know what to look for, all it takes is one person with the best of intentions to click the wrong link or to type in the wrong information, and then that's out there. So we are training employees to spot phishing emails, to take a look. And it's getting to the point, and I'm glad of this, but it's getting to the point where I will get emails from people about legitimate things. Can I click on this? Is this okay? And I'm so pleased to see that. I always write back and say, thank you. Like that's what I want to see. And 9 times out of 10, it's safe, because typically our filters will catch that kind of stuff, but stuff is also getting through. We've also added Google two-step verification, which requires any employee who's logging into a device for the first time to confirm who they are. I'm sure you've all used it. We may be wondering, how do we do that with all employees that don't necessarily have a district cell phone? And if you have a cell phone, a personal cell phone, staff was given the option, sure, you can use your personal cell phone. Not required to, it'll text you a code. But if you don't want to, or you don't have a cell phone, it can also ring a recording to a desk phone, a district desk phone nearby. It's not every single time you log in, it's just when it's a new device, that sort of. And finally, we have been, over the years, moving servers to the cloud, which means off-site, so we don't have to worry about our physical box being targeted and attacked. We're moving them to the cloud, and the cloud typically is an area that's managed by the company that made the software. So they not only have an interest in protecting our customer data, but hundreds and thousands of customers' data. So their interest is our best interest, and we've been able to rely on them to protect that. And the bonus there is we're eliminating servers, we're eliminating electricity and the heat that's generated and all of the things that used to be in-house. Simple stuff.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wright,
Yes.
and for all you're doing for our district. Do we have, I remember the days when we went to, once a week, we went to the computer lab in school and played Oregon Trail, so that was fun. You've come a long way. And also, again, thank you to our voters and our community for supporting
Absolutely.
these things. So, any questions or comments, Ms. Causey?
So I was curious, in light of CrowdStrike, what kind of redundancies do we have built into our system? Because I think we were all very naive in thinking that something like that could never happen, and major U.S. companies were taken down.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we have disaster recovery. It's off-site, different location. That's intended for the worst physical disaster, the building catches fire and all of our servers go down. Being in the cloud, they have that built in. Some of these companies, PowerSchool student data is protected by PowerSchool. They've got it backed up. But in terms of what we have in place, we have it offsite. We also have what's called an air gap backup, which means we take a backup and we physically disconnect it from any network. So that timestamp of information cannot possibly be manipulated by anybody who, even if somebody unintentionally types in a password or clicks a link, that data is safe and secure. But less and less of our own on-site data is on our own network available to hackers or any type of malware. So like I said, we're in a good place to be able to rely on those multi-million-dollar companies and their protections of our data.
So are you saying then because of that, we're at less risk because for phishing expeditions?
That is a dangerous question to answer. I will say that we are in better shape because the protections are stronger. We don't have the budget of multi-million-dollar companies, so we're in definitely better shape. And if there ever is anything that comes about, not so much that we would lose data, but if there's something that requires a backup to be restored, we have companies that have thousands of people on their payroll to quickly get it done. So the downtime for us as a district is much less if we were just Department of 9 scrambling to get it done on site.
That's amazing. And I'm really thrilled to hear that you're training employees. I know there are major corporations that are starting to use, like literally they're sending emails to employees to see what happens, and it's a metric of their employment because there's so much loss associated with that kind of access. So I think that this kind of training, and I think we get it at home as well. We know that it's out there, but I think that it is critical that we train our employees, and that's really fantastic news. 2 other questions, and then I'll stop my questions. Are the price of Chromebooks coming down, do you see? And then is the average life is the same as it's always been, or is that changing at all?
The average life is probably longer, but what we have found is different across the district. You might have your K4 campus where students are using them less often. They have little hands. They're not beating them up as much, but then you go to the middle schools and they're using them every period of every day, and they're maybe not as gentle. So that life expectancy definitely has some variance. Pricing has varied. If nothing was ever changed in a Chromebook, then the price would continue to drop. But then they continue to innovate. They're adding more memory, or they're adding longer battery life. So the prices, I would say, for the most part, the prices have done this where overall they're fairly steady. So there's been a benefit that we've been able to take advantage of that, get more for our dollar without having to spend more over time.
Okay. And then my last question has to do with AI, and just curious. I mean, I have been using AI a bit at work, and I am blown away every single day at the power that it has to make some things that I do so much more efficient. And I mean, it's undeniable. So I've seen, examples. There was a really good, and I think a number of our staff attended the ASBA Law Conference where they had a number of sessions on AI, in terms of supporting master schedules, UNAID communication, operations plans. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, is there, where in the district are we kind of like looking, who's managing that? If you could just give me some insight on that, I'd be really interested.
We probably could have multiple people on multiple microphones answering this at once because there are so many hands involved. And it's not to say that we know which direction we're going yet. We're putting together a committee on AI. There's a lot of involvement in terms of, so I can tell you from IT's perspective, we're not about to step in and say, hey, teachers, you should use it this way, and students, you should learn this way. That's curriculum. That's not going to be IT, but curriculum is not going to probably get in and start changing settings and what's available. So that's why it's a collaborative effort. We'll work together to try to figure out how best to make AI a part of what we do, but not go beyond where we might want to go. But I'm happy to let anyone else chime in as well.
Dr. Gary?
Mr. Wright, thank you. You just did such a great job in highlighting it has to be a partnership between Ed Services and IT. So several of us have attended conferences, including at ASBA, and there is kind of a playbook coming out through multiple organizations, one through NAU, that guides a district on how to get started right? And so you have to really think of the philosophy of the district. You have to determine if your policies support, or if there's any changes that need to be made, and how and when you want staff to use it, and how and when you want students to use it. So we are in the beginning stages of diving in, but it's great to have guidance from multiple organizations and to have all this training, because it's coming. It's already here, obviously, and the kids are going to learn very quickly how to use it, so we need to be prepared. So have a collaborative effort going.
It's a big topic. Anything else, Ms. Kazi? Good. Okay. Ms. Spear.
And with regards to AI, one of the things that I use AI all the time, and one of the things that I've learned is to go to multiple sources, multiple AI sources, and I hope that when the committee does assemble, that they take that into account, that you're going to get a different answer. Like, for instance, if you look up Columbus Day on Copilot, ChatGPT, and then a number of others, you're going to get different answers. And I think that that's just all part of our critical thinking model and process and pedagogy, and I'm excited to see what the committee is able to come up with. I did want to comment on Hall Monitor. I'm thrilled that you found a homegrown approach. Hall Monitor is very expensive software, and it is glitchy, from what I understand, at the high school level in particular, where students taking extra long breaks, maybe for the rest of the day type of thing, becomes an issue. And so I'm thrilled to see that you guys have come up with a homegrown model, and I look forward to hearing how that beta testing goes.
Great.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holcomb?
Yes, I want to thank you. I find it refreshing that the person who's getting up there talking about technology is not pulling their hair out, but is actually smiling. You seem to actually be enjoying what you're doing.
Oh.
You know?
That or I'm a little crazy. One or the other.
Yeah, I see you in Nerdvana, so. But I also wanted to mention that the smart boards, there is one part of the history that particularly I'm fond of, is we had a very contentious issue before the board just as we were getting smart boards out. And we had a crowd of very angry parents on different sides. And so what the board decided to do is we were just getting smart boards, and we had a couple of third graders come in and demonstrate how to use the smart board. And by the time they were done, they got applause, and we had a whole group of happy people. Nice. And then that vote went a whole lot better. But so the technology also can be used to soothe the savage beast. Nice. But I do appreciate also the holistic approach that you're taking this and looking at things, looking to get support where you can get it and things that are that are being developed, but also identifying, say, that's not going to work, we need to do that inside. Excellent. So I'm very thankful. I was an MIS director for a firm for 20 years and a computer programmer when we used to connect computers by telephone, and a 1200 baud modem was super fast on that Trash 80 and the Commodore 64. I really appreciate the approach that we're taking to this, because there's very much a human side to the technologies, being able to make sure that technology is serving the human instead of the other way around. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Vice President Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Mr. Wright, for coming today and presenting. I also want to echo the thanks for staying on top of the issues on the security front. I know there have been issues here in the state, other districts, not ours, and nationally, where there have been ransomware attacks specifically on schools, where social security numbers and personally identifiable data has been stolen and used on that front. So I think it's great that we're staying on top of that, and appreciate your vigilance there. Regarding the smart boards, I think it's so wonderful that our students get to use this technology. I know that when my kids were at Heights last year and the new boards got in place, the teachers were excited, and the kids were excited because they could use them for their presentations, and just that our voters have helped support the funds that provide for this, really allow our students to have access to technology that others might not have, and really enhances their learning. So thanks for that. My kids are also at Park and haven't had any issues with the check-in, check-out. Every day we get in the car and I'm like, where are your badges? Got to remember to have your badges. But I think it's teaching them a level of responsibility and echo the thanks for producing a homegrown solution, because an out of the box might not work for us. There's always a glitch somewhere, and just want to echo the thanks for that work as well.
Great.
That's all I have.
Thank you. I just have one question, and it's also about the hall pass. Is there a scanner? So there's one in each classroom?
One in each
So
classroom.
before they leave, and all the more reason that they have to wear their IDs all the time now as well. So I have heard good things about the purchased ones too, in the high school level and stuff. So, but I think some schools have been asking for it for a while, so it should hopefully will help with some issues. So that's great. Okay. Anything else for Mr. Wright? Thank you for this and for all your work. All right, we'll go on to the next information item, 7.2. Dr. Guerin.
President Gresham, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Lomalee so she can share a quick university partnership update.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Guerin, cabinet, thank you. I want to thank you for approving our consent agenda, the agreements with, today you approved one with GCU for hosting counseling students as interns, and one from the University of Phoenix to host student teachers and administrators in their training, and then one from Arizona State University, go Devils, to host
Second that one, yes.
to host our social work interns. And we do have several other agreements that we have in place. We have in place agreements with Maricopa Community Colleges, NAU. We do have an out-of-state agreement with Western Kentucky University. And we have a variety of disciplines that reach out to us that we work with to host interns. We do have currently interns in our as nutritionists, dietitian nutritionists in our food service. We have this year, we have so far about 14 interns across the district, and we're ramping up now to get interns for the next semester. Benefits, really the purpose for having these partnerships and hosting interns is really for recruitment. This really enables us to get in touch with candidates early in their training. So we make some really good connections with those potential employees, and especially in those hard to fill positions. It also really creates a pipeline for us, because the institutions appreciate that we support the students, and so when we're able to host interns, they'll reach out to us, and really enables us to create a pipeline of candidates. I think one of the other exciting things is we have outstanding staff. They're excellent at what they do. They're well trained, and so lots of universities reach out to us for that reason. And so interns that come to Madison actually get top-notch training because they do come to Madison. So it really helps us to contribute to the profession. And also I believe it helps us with our retention because there's some level of satisfaction when our employees take on interns and they're able to see the progress of future, hopefully Madison employees, but just contributing to the profession. And it's really, like I mentioned, it's a real growth opportunity for our staff. So briefly, that is a little bit about our the partnerships we have with some universities and reasons for having internships or interns in our hosting interns in Madison.
Thank you, Dr. Lomalee. Yeah, these are great. So it's wins all around. So do we have any questions for Dr. Lomalee?
Yes, I just had, do we have a process for how we find and vet these programs? And because we've been very successful over a long period of time, having these partnerships with the various universities, including the interns. But is there a formal process, or is that fit under someone's scope of work?
Well, we have a process where we have connections through HR with the universities where the students are placed. So we have connections with placement directors, and sometimes it's through learning. For example, I know at GCU, if an intern is not having, maybe not up to standard, for example, or not performing well, we have a good communication with GCU, or we can explain that to them, and they will come and support the interns to help them with, they want to make sure when they graduate a teacher, for example, that they are ready to go. And so we have that connection where we can work with the university to support our interns.
Answer your question. And these are similar to student teachers, right? Except for different.
Yeah,
departments.
student teachers, sometimes it's a counselor that has to complete an internship, or a social worker, or someone that's in nutrition. So we have a variety, and we're always seeking out hard to fill positions. For example, at the community college, they have training programs for assistant SLPs and assistant OTs. And so those basically are, you put time in working with an occupational therapist, for example. And so that then would help us to fill one of those hard to fill positions.
Anything else for Dr. Lomeli? No problem. Yes, thank you so much for all your work on this.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to, we have 2 action items. 8.1 Helios Agreement, Dr. Guerin.
President Gresham, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, I'm very excited to present this item for your consideration. As a part of the Phoenix Collaborative, where I meet with 13 other superintendents every week that started during the pandemic, with a partnership with the Helios organization when we went to visit the data center. It evolved into K-8 districts needing more information and data about where our students go for high school and if they're prepared. So we have an opportunity to be on the ground floor in a partnership between Madison Elementary, Phoenix Union, and the ASU Helios Data Center for Educational Excellence and the Helios Education Foundation in a project called VISTA, or the Visualization of Student Trajectories and Achievement, and it allows us to more clearly see how our students are doing beyond our K-8 experience. So the purpose of this partnership and the research questions they want to help us answer, is how do middle school students perform in high school? What are the academic trajectories of students based on their performance in the district? How do groups of students differ in their trajectories, and what factors impact them? Are we preparing them for rigorous high school classes and eventually for college or other education needed for their future? And how effective are our programs in producing student outcomes that are successful? So this is just a quick screenshot of some of the visualization that we would see, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on each one. But sometimes, you just get all this data, and it's really heavy and it's hard to draw conclusions. So what they have is visual tools, and when you visit the center, you can see them side by side, so you can begin to have discussion and draw conclusions. So let's take a look at the first one. This is, where do our students attend high school? And so obviously this is not real schools, it's just a visualization. So this is exciting that we're going to be able to see where our students go. Now, we're just getting started with this. Again, we are the first 13 districts to do this. So it will start with the students that go to Phoenix Union High School District, but they are in talks right now with Glendale Union High School District. We know we have a lot of students that go to Sunny Slope, and they're also approaching Scottsdale School District. So the goal is for this to expand, and I will encourage my colleagues as well, because I think we will all benefit from this together. It's different from them just getting data from ADE, because here we have, we can identify our students and find out where they're going and how they're doing specifically. So it's a very tight data security agreement, right? That's why we have to have it approved by the board, but it's going to give us so much more than we have before eventually. Now the next slide. How do our students do in high school? So we can look and see by middle school how they're doing, and then a middle school can also see the overall grades of their students that they're earning in high school. And on the next slide, we can look, and I'm excited about this, we can look by subject area and dig into how they're doing. So if our 8th graders are taking algebra with us, how are they doing? Are they repeating algebra in high school? Are they going into geometry? How are their outcomes? We can look school by school and really decide, are we preparing them? And we just haven't been able to get this detailed before. So eventually, it will really, when you think about our strategic plan and how we want to measure our outcomes and our programming, this is a key piece of the puzzle. Okay, and then we also can look and see how students do in rigorous courses like dual enrollment or AP classes, and is there anything we need to do to prepare them for those classes. And we can also see how many of our students are going on, and if there's any unintended roadblocks or barriers for our students accessing those classes, because I've been in systems where if you don't start to accelerate your math program by 5th or 6th grade and middle school, you'll never get to the top math classes in high school. And those are arbitrary barriers that we have systematized, right? And we can remove them. Right. And so this work can be exciting in that way that we can identify them and say, what are we doing unintentionally, or what are we doing intentionally that's working? We're also going to see where our strengths are and hopefully be able to duplicate them. And then we can look at students, how they move through the grade levels. What classes are they taking? When are they stumbling? How can we help them? And we can communicate and partner with the high schools on this. And so by meeting with these other superintendents every week, we're building trust, and we're all in this together, and many of our students all come together in the high school, so we have that shared interest. So it's very interesting to look to see how our students do and how we can support, and it's just not one year compared to the next. We can go course by course, grade by grade. And then this can help us look at when students go off track, what classes did they take, where did it happen, what can we do, and communicate with the high school. So we can dig and dig and dig to see how our students are doing. So clearly I'm a little excited about this, and I hope everyone gets the opportunity to visit the Helios Data Center, because when you can see all of everything side by side and all these screens, compared even with Phoenix job growth and opportunity and career trajectories, and it's all pieces of the puzzle that can help us make informed decisions as educators. So I'm asking for your approval this evening on this.
Thank you, Dr. Guerin. Do we have any questions or comments, Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Dr. Guerin, for presenting this. Before I joined this board, I was the CEO of an organization that was responsible for the Arizona Education Progress Meter, which ranked everything from third grade reading, enrollment in pre-K programs, all the way through college and career success, and was a part of this work, and also watched Helios as they stood up these data agreements. I'm so thrilled that Madison is, hopefully after this vote, going to be a part of this work. To be honest, aside from my excitement about us being part of this work, I'm quite disappointed that Superintendent Horn has not worked with Helios in a way to make the data sets available statewide, because the power of this information and the data and the decisions that can be made, especially in our state where we have small elementary districts, and we are disconnected from what happens to our students both at the high school level and then in the higher ed space and in the college and career space. This is going to be transformational for us. I'm thrilled that we're going to be a part of the Phoenix Union Collaborative working on this, to understand also the potential when we have students move away from our district, go to another district, maybe come back to our district, that wash, that will show up in this data and to be able to have constructive conversations about what's working for us in our district, what's not, what's working in another district, and be able to share that is really going to rise the tide for everyone. So thank you for spearheading this work. I'm excited to be supportive of this and look forward to hopefully visiting the Decision Center so we can look a little bit more at our own data. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Ms. Spear.
Hi, thank you.
Hello.
Thank you for this presentation of the data continuity, access to hone our curriculum and our approach. One of the things that I know that Ms. Kazi and I have talked about for like 12 years is the academic attainment levels that are so closely connected to Algebra 1, just Algebra 1. And so this will be really interesting for us as we go down the line. One of the questions that I do have, and forgive me if this was presented in a different format, is when you dig, are you able to get down to student names?
So we will either use student names or student numbers because we will track specific students, but we have to enter into a very tight security agreement. Only a few ASU staff members, it's not all of ASU, that the data will be tightly guarded. But there will have to be an identifier assigned to each student so we can track them through the systems. So typically they take the student name, they give it an identifier, and then you can track it back. But it's a small handful of people, so we take the security. Of course, ASU has a bazillion students of their own, so that they know how to do student privacy correctly. But I did ask Joe Riley, and he walked me through the access points and how it wouldn't be open to everyone, that it would be carefully guarded.
Good question.
Yeah.
I could hear the questions being
Sure.
asked by parents, especially as it relates to FERPA and privacy. And the last question I had is if there are some individuals with access to those identifiers, are we able to confirm that those identifiers end at age 18?
That's a great question. I can confirm that.
I do feel a little bit concerned about anyone being able to check on academic attainment levels or the whereabouts of our former students once they turn 18. That I think is mission creep.
I will absolutely find the answer out for that.
Thank you, Ms. Spear. Ms. Kasi.
I just want to also, I'm beyond the moon excited about this. I think it's brave. I think people don't appreciate that, you can't hide behind data like this. But it is, in my mind, the ultimate accountability opportunity because so much more than our standardized tests that the state requires that we take and the federal government as well. This will provide, I think, just incredible information on how we can better support our students as they move into high school, which we know is such a critical time period, not just middle school, but high school as well. So just thank you for, again, I really believe this is brave. It really is. And for all the organizations that are participating in, but so important and says so much about how Madison fully, truly puts our students first. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Holcomb.
Yes, and Ms. Spear, response to go further with what you're talking about. Almost a full half of this agreement deals with FERPA, security, the whole thing. So, and this is, that obviously is something that's very important, but that's one thing I want, our public to understand, that this is not an agreement. We're not paying anything for this, correct? This agreement has anything to do about payment. It has everything to do with how to collaborate on this and do it in a professional, protected way so that you get useful information, but also I was very impressed by going through the agreement and looking at how much protection and thought has been given to what needs to happen. The other thing that this at a broader level for many years, we've tried to work with high schools and that to coordinate programs, make things better. And schools, a lot of times, school districts, a lot of times get siloed. And to me, this is probably one of the best demonstrations of where, open enrollment and a number of things that we've done in education make schools and school districts compete against each other. And that can be destructive or it can be positive, because it can either help people go against each other or help each other, them build stuff up. The collaborative group you have, and specifically things like this, where everybody gets to share in that information and work through it and see what works, what doesn't, and collaborate through those silos. I think just the whole process, the data and that is very important, but just this whole approach to education and going across is hugely important. So I think this is absolutely great, and the more we can do this type of collaborative work, the better. Because I think when we find something that works well, it always bothers me that, okay, we found something that works well, but it's not available to all the kids, and it's not available to all families, and that is what we should be working towards, and not to lessen anybody, but to try to build everybody up. I was thinking it's like the Olympics. There's a lot of times the competition in the Olympics actually drives everybody up because the competition brings it out. And as your point to the Department of Education, I did notice, I thought the 3 schools that they had listed there, I think they got extra grant money from the Department of Education.
Yes, okay. All done?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, thank you to my fellow board members for their thoughtful questions and comments. I'm very impressed by this. When I first heard about it, I was like, oh, more data, whatever, And then after seeing the presentation, it was really impressive, all the things that we can, especially as a K-8 district, it's hard to track, and open enrollment as well. So, yeah, this would be very, very cool to see. And we've always, even just tracking where our students go to high school has been like a challenge. So this will be very valuable. So, all right, I will take a. Do I have a motion to approve that agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Thompson, seconded by Ms. Causey. Please vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Guerin, for your work on that. All right, 8.2, financial report. I think I know who this is going to, but I'll let Dr. Guerin.
President Gresham, it's about that time of year again for Ms. Garvey to present her annual financial report. Ms. Garvey.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Guerin, and Cabinet. Tonight's AFR annual financial report is before you for approval. It is a requirement by the Arizona Department of Education, and it is due by October 15th every year, so we are making it. And the annual financial report is a compilation of all the financial transactions that happened the previous school year. So it's all your revenues, where did they come from, and then where does the money go? And I think every iteration of this report every year gets a little bit, they display information in many ways so that people can look at it different ways. So, but we'll start, I'm just going to give the highlights as if you were turning the pages on the report. We start with the maintenance and operation and capital revenue page. So this is where do our monies come from for our formula funded funds. 52.4% of our money comes from the property owners within the district. 41.1% does come from state aid, and then there's that smaller 0.8% that comes from investment income. So our money that is with the county treasurer does earn interest, and we get that back. And then the other in there after investment income, sometimes if you get a return of a warrant, like a stale dated warrant, somebody didn't cash it, we just have to put that back into revenue. You don't respend it, but it just goes back into revenue. So that's what those monies would be. The next page really breaks out our maintenance and operations expenditures in many different ways. So I have it on slides in different ways. But the Maintenance and Operations Fund, for anybody that doesn't know, it's really those daily operations. It's what keeps us going. It's the utilities and the salaries for a large percentage of our staff. The first way that we break out maintenance and operations is by program. So we look at regular education, which makes up 76.75% of the expenditures, almost $35.5 million. Our next program is special education, a little over $7 million, 18.31%. And then transportation rounds out that third category that the budget's broken into at almost 5% and $2.2 million. It also breaks it out by function. Okay, so now we know we have regular ed, special ed, and transportation, but how are those dollars spent, and what percentage is going into, for example, our largest category here, instruction? 48.1% goes into instruction. Instruction support is 10.5%. So those would be the social worker at each school. That's just an example. The nurse would fall into that category. Any OT, PT falls into that category. So that's the instruction support. Then we have staff support at 5.7%. Staff support is professional development, instructional coaches, people that are out there helping to support the instruction of the students and help teachers. Then you have your school administration at 6%. And it's not just the principals. This includes the office staff. It includes people, the attendance clerk. So it's at 6%. Central administration tends to be the district office staff per se, and that's 8.8%. Maintenance is at 15% of the budget, a large component of that. We have all of our craft maintenance, but we also have all of our utilities, our garbage, our electricity. So there's a lot, property insurance goes in there. There's a lot actually in that maintenance category. Transportation, again, at 4.9%. And then non-instructional services is at 0.9%. So that is the amount that we spend on the food service program. In order to receive the money from the federal government for the food service program, we get reimbursement on every meal that's served. We are required to do a match of some sort, and that is our match. When we combine our maintenance and operations and classroom site fund expenditures, and these really, a large percentage of classroom site fund is the base pay, so that's why we put it here, and it's pay for performance. So what a teacher would really consider their pay. And when you combine that, you can see that you're at 52.5% in instruction, and instruction support is 9.7%, and then that staff support is 5.2%. And as we know, the Auditor General's office has changed. When they look at that dollars in the classroom, they actually combine those three now because they know how critical it is. One cannot just stand alone. So when you look at it that way, we have in the high 60% going right into directly to students. Then we look at our expenditures by object. Again, like I say, this is just so many different ways to look at this information. And it helps us too when we're looking at it to analyze it. And we do look at trends over the years, and when we're forecasting, it does help. So salaries and benefits are at 83% of the total. So obviously we're very people heavy. That's not a surprise. Utilities are at 4.8% at $2.2 million. We have purchase service at 10.5%, $4.8 million, and then it rounds out with those supplies and miscellaneous. Our budget was $48.1 million, and our expenditures were $46 million, so we have almost $2 million in carry forward. When we look at M&O staff and that 83% that goes into people, you can see how many people here are paid. 522 people are actually paid out of this fund. So it is a lot of people, and you can see the breakdown there. Salaries are $28.6 million. And then the benefits, which is a very large part of employing people, obviously, it comes in at 9.6. And you can see the breakout between the ASRS. For anybody that doesn't know, that's our state retirement system. It's required that we participate in employees match, but health insurance, FICA, Medicare, so you can see those. The average teacher salary is $62,431, and that again is average. We do have a staff that is a little bit more veteran, so it is perhaps higher. Well, we know it's higher than the state average. And then you can see between the insurance, the retirement, and FICA, that $62,000 really becomes an $83,000 position. And we will be posting this on the website, the average teacher salaries requirement, that it's on the website. And then the next page has some just random information, for lack of better term, on the AFR, but they specifically call out what are the expenditures for your gifted pupils, how much did you spend on the external audit, and then just transportation, some fun facts, I guess. 910 students transported, 127,000 miles. So definitely we are on the road a lot. The classroom site fund, again, is for teacher-based pay and pay for performance. And this was the first year, it used to be around 11 to 12% of the teacher-based pay came out of classroom site fund. But as you recall, the last year we did a shift from pay for performance into base salary. So if you're thinking pay for performance looks lower at the 1,000, you're right. That's the 1,000 was the max. I will tell you that most did get the full amount of pay for performance, so it's there, and it's about 14% of the teacher's base pay. When we look at our capital expenditures by object, we do have our capital override, and then we also have our unrestricted capital formula funding. When you look at this together, it's $3.2 million. It's interesting when Mr. Wright did his presentation, because when you look at it, how times have changed. Because of this 3.2, 1.6 is just in subscriptions for software. So half of it goes into software subscriptions. And then this year, we didn't have a textbook adoption this past year, but we did put about $725,000 into updating Chromebooks and some smart boards as well. Preventative maintenance came in at about $125,000 of that. And those were the big items within capital. When we look at bond building, we spent just over $22 million, and it was working on a lot of projects that were carryover from the prior year. So we didn't really start any big projects last year, but we spent a lot of time finishing projects and then just at the tip of starting some new projects with the bond that was passed at the last election by our voters. So you can see the list there of things that were purchased. Then we have our federal projects fund on the next page. And this past year we spent almost $4.7 million in federal projects. You can see the breakout there. These are the largest. It's not all of them, but these are our larger ones if you wanted to look at them. E-rate was a lot of actually backbone and networking. We were able to apply for bigger chunks instead of spreading it out over years. So we did that to really enhance our broadband. And then you can see, obviously here, the largest expenditure left is ESSER 3 at $1.8 million, and we received about 4.6, so you can see it's dwindling. But I think that we've done a really good job, especially as we go into our fund balance reserve, of migrating the things that were paid for, staff, if it was staff, into M&O and other funds, and just having that plan to make sure that we remain solvent and that we keep our level of service very high. We look at our state projects, 1.1 million. Results-based funding is here because we just had some left carry forward from the previous year. So that fund has gone away, but that's our previous year carry forward. Arts consumable was a really, really nice surprise. In, I want to say, April, we were told that we could order. Teachers had the ability to go out every teacher and spend, I think it was $500 or $1,000, somewhere in there, and they could buy art consumables. So I can tell you, to have $114,000, and it had to be purchased and received within a month, I can tell you that warehouse was one busy place at $114,000. So, and then we have our school safety expansion, which pays for the counselors and one social worker, one at each school. And then we have our AZ K-12 at $166,000. Food service actually has its own page on the AFR, and there's just a lot of information in there, such as the number of breakfasts, the number of lunches. You can see that we serve almost 800,000 meals throughout the year. The revenue is 3.9 million, and the expenditures were 3.9 million. Not to worry, they are solvent. They do have a cash carry forward, and they are limited by federal regulation that they can only carry 3 months worth of cash on hand. So we maintain their 3 months of cash on hand, but we can't exceed that, or they will stop funding, or you have to pay it back. So we really do monitor it. So it might look, but they also contribute to the district. The indirect cost of $329,000 is they contribute to help offset all the expenses of the electricity, the people that do the payroll, that hire the people. And the last page for actual expenditures before the summary page are what they consider other funds. And you can obviously see here that community ed at 8.5 million is really a strong performer and offers the services to all of our students. We have our instructional improvement fund that goes to pay for our stipends for our special education teachers and bilingual stipends. We have our extracurricular activities. Of that 761,000, a large percentage of that is actually for sports and field trips. Then we have our gifts and donations, and then indirect costs, so the grants and food service pay into that, and then that goes to fund overhead. And then our student activities, which are the student clubs, $61,075. There are a couple other pages. There's probably about 4 more pages on the AFR that really just take all of this information and just spin it different ways, because we're actually grateful that ADE is now using this report to prepare federal reporting that otherwise we would have to do. So it does require these extra pages, but it truly is just the same information, many different ways to meet those obligations. On this page, and it's in the AFR, the amount that we receive consideration from credit card, for us it's what we get for making those electronic fund transfers instead of cutting checks. And we are about $18,000 up from last year, so we're continuing to see people wanting to do that. It's really nice. And then on there, you can see our bonds outstanding are $103 million. We retired almost $13 million this past year. The summary page has all of the district expenditures on it, a summary of what we just saw, $116,137,918. So it's quite a bit. Last year, we saw the addition of the fund balance reserve, and again, I think the state just really wants to know that you have this planning in place, that you're following good guidelines. As you know, we discuss it. We talk about our cash on hand. We talk about our rainy day funds and how important it is. And then, of course, following that GFOA, that Government Finance Officers Association, that's really the premier organization for setting accounting standards in the United States. And just really how critical it is that you maintain cash and that you have adequate levels of fund balance left for any risks that might come up, and how critical it is for our bond rating. And I can tell you, like, I was really, really just beyond elated again this year when we did have a bond sale in August, and there were other districts out there that could not get their bonds sold, and the underwriters had to buy some of them. we were oversubscribed minimum 3 times on everything, and we got 50 basis points more. So it really is like, this is my nirvana, but that is like, it's just like so awesome. So anyway, so as we follow those, they do say a minimum of, and I'm just going to give one example out there of what we look at, but an example is that you shouldn't have any less than 2 months of operating expenditures. So when we talk about operating again, we do talk about, I'm sorry, Danielle, I'm not advancing my slides. Thank you. We do talk, here's a list of all the ones. So we have these 2 months. You can see why we would have them. The next slide does have the funds that we really do maintain and that we're always planning and moving and thinking how we can utilize them to best meet the needs of the district. You have the whole list there. But just to give you that example of a projected fund balance, our M&O projected fund balance is, thank you, is currently we have cash, just a little over 8.3 million. We talked about the budget balance carry forward being 1.9. We have actually earmarked 400,000 of that for budget commitments for this current year that we're in. That leaves us with 1.5 in carryover. So our unrestricted fund balance there is at 6 million. You can see our annual expenditures. If you divide it by 12 months, if you divide it by 10 and multiply it by 2, that's simple math, I think. So we are between 7.7 million and 8.6 million with our balance in our indirect fund, which is also in our general fund. We are right about there. So we are in a really good place, and it just really helps us see, like, what can we give, like when it comes time for the things that you need for the upcoming year. Do you have extra money? Do you not? Where can you put something? And it's just, it becomes a big puzzle, but our eye is never off of our reserves, and I just think that's important for our community to know. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Garvey, as always, for this presentation that's so easy to understand, and for breaking it out for everyone, and just for all your work. We were singing your praises. I forgot to mention this. I got to attend the Simus Site Council the other night, so we were all singing your praises of what a great job you're doing. So thank you for that. Do we have any questions or comments for Ms. Garvey? Yes, Ms. Kazi.
Thank you. Thank you for a most fabulous report. 2 questions. On Johnson O'Malley, is that based on the number of students that we serve? Is it just?
Do you know, I would have to ask Barb.
Yes, the Johnson O'Malley is based on our Native American population, so based on the number of students that we have.
All right, thank you. And then second question is a little bit more expansive. I was just curious how, this is really helpful, like this is the, the view for this year, but looking back, are there any trends, that we're seeing increases in fund allocations? Was it, is it transportation, whatever it might be that you just have noticed and you're just keeping an eye on that you think would be valuable to share?
Well, you did pick one out. I'm definitely have my eye on transportation. I've had it on my eye on that for a while, because we do tend to run higher on transportation even than our peer groups. So we are always looking at that. It's been a hard thing to wrangle, though, especially with the driver shortage and having to, just as with special ed, you still need to provide services, right? So if you don't have an employee, you're getting contracted services, which do come at a premium. But we're watching how we balance that. Just today, Ms. Marshall and myself had a conversation about special ed and how, because special ed is also on the uptick. I think they were about 16% of our budget last year. This year, they're a little over 18%, and you're seeing that tick up. And so it's how are we using our funds and how are we structuring things different, especially with now the inclusion model that we're going toward. And again, even reserve on that. We talk about you need to save a reserve because there are some very high needs children that we need to serve. And if they come, we need to be able to serve them. So just looking at those reserves. And then I would say really critical too, we're always looking at, we're doing capital planning out several years, we've been applying for school SFOB, building renewal grants, and money is really tight, and we're really not getting it. I think that we received like 11,000, so far. It's just really not coming our way even when we think it is. And we've invited them out, and they're excited for our projects, and I truly believe they are. It's just they have such a limited pot as well. So we are really trying to project out, because capital, even if we have 8 million, capital, it goes quickly, very quickly, if there's any large items. So I would say that those are the things. And of course, without say, we're always looking for ways to optimize salaries for our staff. So.
And then I just want to make sure that, is this a fair characterization to say that of the 7 million that we spent last year in special ed, we received only 1 million from the federal government to cover those expenses? All right. I just want to make sure that I understood that right. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Spear?
Thank you so much for your thorough report. And this format actually is very clear and easy to understand. And I'm thrilled that we're going to be putting this on the website. To that end, really and truly, the only comment I have is on slides 4 and 5 under maintenance.
Yes.
Since that does include utilities, I am wondering if it might make sense for us to somehow mark utilities in parens. I don't know, but I wonder if those slides being at the front end of the presentation, if somebody sees that, they might think
Sure.
that we just are very robust in our campus beautification programs as opposed to paying
Yes,
our
we
energy bills.
definitely can do that, because it's a whole different picture when you take the 5% out for utilities.
It
So-
is. And I'm worried with those being slides 4 and 5, someone, if they're not as diligent as we are by looking at your entire beautiful presentation, they might tap out and have the wrong impression. And that is truly my only comments.
That's a very easy change, and thank you.
I figured that
Excellent
that's
point.
easy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holcomb?
Yeah, if I can follow up on that, is it of that maintenance amount, is that more utilities or more maintenance? Which is the larger bucket?
Probably more maintenance.
Okay.
Because utilities is about 5% of that 13.7. So it's more maintenance, but in that maintenance is also security. It's a very big umbrella. So it's
Yeah,
all
actually,
safety and security. It's even crossing guards at the school.
Right.
So
Actually, in the current climate and information people want, I think you should make that a three-part: maintenance, utilities, and security. Because those are three things, and if it's just maintenance, it looks like one. But if you put that, I think it's a better description of what we're doing, more
those are
accurate.
Absolutely necessities as well,
Well,
not
and
just
it's
nice
also
to haves. But
checks of what people are really looking at and interested. Because
That's good.
look at that, say, well, where is the security? Where is you've now covered those particular questions. The only other comment I have is, besides the fact that this is so clear, it makes it easy for us to understand and for us to communicate with the community. Like the other presentation, I always enjoy watching you give a presentation, because this type of stuff can be dry as heck, and really in school finance can be hard. And you really seem to enjoy what you're doing. You do such a great job, and in your commitment and joy in actually making this work so well. It's fun to watch.
I do love it. Thank you.
thank you. I mean, I happen to enjoy charts and graphs, Mr. Holcomb. So.
So does my daughter, who's going to work for Ernst & Young, and there's a lot of therapy in her future, I'm sure.
And you have every right to be giddy about your bond ratings and everything. Ms. Thompson, you have something?
Yes, just really quick, two small things. First of all, I want to thank you for your vigilance and advice around around having the carry forward balance. It's so important. I know we talked about this last year, but it's so important that we have those reserve funds in case of a need for a rainy day. I was a lobbyist when the legislature decided to take a quarter of funding from universities and K-12 to help bridge the gap. That gap still has never been filled. It's a loan that was made over a decade ago, and it still hasn't been paid back. Even though, you know, we can now pay our bills on time, there are bills from 10 years ago that weren't, and I wouldn't put it past the legislature from doing that again. And frankly, it was pouring rain, like fill the boats, pouring rain, and we need to be able to have funds to be able to address those things when the state is in dire need. So appreciate that we have that. One other suggestion on the average teacher salary, I so appreciate that our teacher salary is higher than the average. I also recognize our team does such fantastic work at retaining employees. I think it's important to help communicate what our average either retention or teacher experience index number is, because at some point people retire and that shifts, and there could be a change in that number, and I want to be able to help communicate that when the time comes. Hopefully it won't be anytime soon, but it's really wonderful that we are able to keep and recruit talented, seasoned professionals for our students. So just one of those long-term numbers to include for later. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a few questions as well for you. On slide 9, I'm just curious, as far as the gifted expenditures, do you happen to know, or maybe you can find this out, how that compares to similar?
I would have to find, I can
be great.
look. Yes, I can definitely.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Yeah,
That will be easy to find.
thank you. I do want to point out, and which you did, Ms. Garvey, is that how low our admin costs are, and there's a great myth that public schools have a large admin expenditures, and it's just not true. We actually have some of the lowest in the country. So thank you for pointing that out. And one other question I had on slide 6 was purchased services, 10.5%. Can you just go over broadly what is included in that?
Sure. So that could be any of our contracted services that I talked about. So it could be, a lot of times there are a lot of sped categories in that we get services for. It's even the ASBA policy services come under purchase service. So I can give you a better breakdown in the weekly.
No, that's fine. Yeah, that's what I figured, but just wanted to check.
But it doesn't include smart schools.
Yes, it would.
It was. Okay. That helps a lot.
Yep, it also does. So anybody out there that doesn't know, smart schools are now ESI, are teachers that we contract to come
Right.
work. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Oh, one more.
Yeah, just can I follow up on your statement about administrative cost? Last time I looked at it, if we would double the amount Arizona pays for administrative costs, we would still not be at the median for the United States.
Wow.
I mean, it is that low compared to what other states do.
Yes, we are a lean machine for sure. Okay, is that it for Ms. Garvey? Thank you so much for this. Appreciate it. And, we do need to approve this.
Please.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the annual financial report?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Thompson, second by Mr. Holcomb. Please vote. And that has been approved. Okay, our last task, future meetings. Dr. Guerin.
President Gresham, members of the board, cabinet, and guests. We do have a second meeting in October, October 29th, and I'd like to ask for an executive session at 5 p.m. to go over my goals, and I will get you a draft in advance. Then we have our first school showcase of the year, Park Middle School, followed by You Make a Difference Shining Star. Ms. Garvey will be back with bond and override report. We have more policies to bring to you. As I said, it's policy season. We will have our state assessment update for Mr. Pienkowski and a calendar recommendation. For several years, we have a calendar committee hard at work, ready to bring a recommendation to you. So, and then as we move into November, we'd like to gather again before we start IBN and budget advisory to just get some input from the board. We'll have a school showcase from Rose Lane. Oh, there's the student achievement assessment calendar recommendations and more policies. And in that October meeting, I'll be bringing, as Ms. Kazi mentioned, the ASBA bylaw update, and I am signed up for that webinar. So. All right.
All right, thank you. Any conflicts or questions on our future meetings? Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Did we have, I'm looking and I don't see it, but I'm probably just looking past it, the approval of the proposed bylaws for ASBA on there? Okay.
October 29th.
Oh,
At
thanks.
the bottom there.
Oh,
Yep.
there it is at the bottom.
And yes, I was going to
Scroll. I just didn't scroll to the second page. Thank you.
remind our fellow board members that we need to look at those. And thank you, Ms. Kazi, for your help with that. Anything else? Anything else for the meeting? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Kazi, seconded by Ms. Thompson. Please vote. And we are adjourned. Thank you.